Good afternoon. I'm Jim Contois, and today I'm talking with June Goodband, Peace and Justice candidate for Vermont governor. Hi, June.
Hi, Jim.
Let's begin with introducing yourself and telling us why you're running for governor.
Well, I decided many years ago, when the Black Lives Matter movement started, that protesting wasn't enough, that we needed real systemic change if we wanted any kind of equity and justice in our society. And those things are really important to me. And the way our systems are set up, there are invisible constraints on people that keep them in, I'm going to say, a lower caste than other people. And that includes especially Black people and Native people, but migrants are now definitely in that group and have been for a long time. And it's moving to the point where all of us are. There's such a big gulf between the rich and the rest of us. If we want a just, inclusive society, we need to make major systemic change. And I think state government can help make that happen. So I've been visioning how that could work, how we could move from a system that's based on exploitation to a system that's based on cooperation and caring.
Fine. Why is it important for you to be a candidate at this time?
At this time, people are starting to wake up. They're realizing that having two parties that both respond more to the needs of corporations and the rich than to the needs of the people is dead end. Two parties that support war and exploitation. And it's time to have an alternative and to hear a different approach.
Okay. What are some of the root problems, June, that you hope to address?
Well, the root problem I hope to address is that for the last 45 years or so, we've been rapidly redistributing wealth from the common people up to a small number of very wealthy people. And that would be a big enough problem if it was just wealth, but they've also taken the power from the democracy to this very small group. And they control all sorts of things in our lives. They control the quality of our food, the quality of our water, where we shop, what we do, our incomes. Our incomes and the costs we pay. They control who gets elected because our elections run heavily on money. And we are feeling more and more powerless, and more people are feeling hopeless and despondent, more anxious. And that's because their rightful power and right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is being taken away.
So I'm hearing you say that we don't matter and corporations control everything.
Yeah, corporations treat us like we don't matter. They treat humans like human sacrifice is okay. It doesn't matter that we have 4,000 people homeless in our state. It doesn't matter that people are dying in the streets. It doesn't matter that people living on very fixed incomes suddenly get a notice that, oh, we're not going to cover so much of your drug costs anymore. So if you need medications to live, we hope you've got the money, because if you don't, you're in trouble. People are dying because of the way this government works. I'm talking now about the federal government, but state government could work to counter a lot of that. And some of it would be difficult, but ultimately not more expensive. If we implement the universal health care plan, we might bring our state more in line with other countries who pay less than half as much as Vermont does and have a much better quality of care. We wouldn't be stuck in the same position that we are in now. We wouldn't see hospitals closing. We wouldn't see maternity rooms closing. We wouldn't see shutdowns in mental hospitals. I know they're working hard to replace that. But if we based what we were doing on what people needed, not on what they want to fund or what's easily funded within the system as it exists now, we'd have a much better system.
So you just laid out some problems that certainly we're all experiencing. But explain some of the barriers we face in solving problems, or in this case, the barriers you would face as governor in solving problems.
Well, the first problem is, as Stephen Biko said, the greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is the minds of the oppressed. And for all of my lifetime, we've been encouraged to think, this is how the system works, this is how it has to work, you have to work within this system, you cannot change it. This is the best system in the world, it's the best it could be. And people have not been even allowed to examine it. And now they're trying to restrict thinking even in colleges about what could be done differently. And the media, as I said, is largely owned by wealthy people, and they are not encouraging critical thinking. The soundbite political system, where you have one-liners, and that's supposed to convince you of what somebody stands for, or 3 bullet points. I stand for this, this, and this. That limits people's ability to really understand what's going on and what to do about it. People tend to think in dichotomies. And if you support more taxation for the very wealthy, they think you're going to tax them more than they currently do. So I'm sure I had some other barriers. The first one I'm thinking of is that one. Let me think for a moment.
Just as a quick aside, you just referenced Steve Biko. Who's Steve Biko?
Oh, he was a leader in South African movement against apartheid who was killed. But he was a movement to try to stop apartheid in South Africa.
Apartheid, a big barrier.
Yes. I think the other barrier to change is that we tend to do things as we've always done them. And that's true within the political system, that people will not even talk about what could be done that would radically change things. They'll talk about a slight change, like, hey, could we do universal primary care? Not, can we do universal health care? Or, we could tax the rich a little bit more. Wait a minute, they've just cut taxes on the rich by a huge amount. And that was at the federal level, and they said, if states and local governments want to tax people, very wealthy people can exempt up to $200,000 from their taxes. This is a deduction, not a complete exemption. But that's a lot. We can tax them and it won't cost them more than they would have been paying a few years ago. And those monies could go into building wonderful, strong communities where they can live and enjoy connection and enjoy a just, equitable society.
So you're leaning into my next question, which is, can you describe your visions or solutions? So you've already been talking about that. Could you elaborate more on visions or solutions?
Yes. I want to tip things over. And instead of having the rich control everything, I want to build solutions from the bottom up. I want to empower people to build strong, thriving communities. I want to help people work together. And I think that we could do that. Vermont has some history of that, and there are ways that the state could support and encourage that. In the Peace and Justice Party, we have 3 items in our platform that I think are very relevant to state government. One is that we want a just, inclusive society. That means everybody. We want equitable distribution of wealth and power, and we want sustainable use of resources for the benefit of all. And so my vision is people matter. People in their daily lives matter, They know that their jobs are meaningful, that what they do to help other community members is meaningful, that they are part of something bigger than themselves. And they know that their basic needs are going to be met, and they're also going to have enough left over, whether it's time or money, to have some enjoyment in life.
Part of something, I like that. National polls show that the #1 issue is affordability. Can you talk to affordability, June?
Well, it's a problem for everybody because costs keep going up and most people's incomes don't, or they don't go up enough to match the costs. And you see this especially in the housing sector, where the price of housing has shot up when you're buying, the price of interest for buying a house has shot up. And if you're renting, rents have increased by 3 to 4 times in the last 6 years. That's really impossible for a lot of people. Their incomes haven't gone up that much. We don't have a livable wage. So I support having a livable wage be the standard, which at this point would probably start at about $25 an hour. And there could be exemptions for startups as long as nobody in the company, not the owner, not the manager, nobody in the company made more than the lowest paid person. Because if you can pay yourself more, you can pay your employees more.
So you talked about a livable wage at $25. Is that really enough?
I don't think it's really enough, but it's a base. And I think that it might have to change by the time November comes around. The price of oil going up, the price of everything going up may push that number higher. I think it's a hard pill for people to swallow, that it's going to jump from under $15 an hour to $25 an hour. But I think the people that are living on $15 an hour right now would find a way. I think it's really important not to assume that the people who work for low amounts of money have few skills or little knowledge. Oftentimes, they're highly skilled people and very knowledgeable people. They just aren't in the right job, or they don't have a job that gives them enough money, even if that's something that they're good at and enjoy and it's helpful to people.
So these are some pretty big issues. My next question would be, how will you implement your vision for change?
I have a bunch of different projects. The first thing I would do is appoint people to positions in departments, the government, who have lived experience of the harm caused by the current system. So some of the cabinet level positions would be held by people who may not have a PhD, but who know more about how the system actually works from the underside. I would make sure that there are also people who share the vision that I'm putting forward, and I would work actively with the legislature to pass bills that move us towards a more just and equitable society. And those would include first banning data centers, livable wage, implementing Vermont's universal health care bill, creating meaningful jobs that support the development of a network of thriving communities. The goal is thriving communities where everyone has a voice and everyone helps each other. And you can do this by creating community care systems. I'd also like to support local food production and distribution. I want to separate the education tax from the property tax and have it be in progressive taxation. Some people are really threatened with losing their homes because they can't pay the property taxes as they're now set up. And we don't want people losing their homes. We want people to have what they need. And a way to do that is to have taxes paid by people who can afford to pay them. I want to support grassroots groups that want to develop systems that would work in their communities. Expand restorative justice and bail reform to reduce prison populations. When I talk about some grassroots I can't talk right now. When I want to explain how grassroots groups could work, you could take some people who are unhoused, some people who are housed but stuck in renting and really want to be part of, say, an intentional community, and really want to own their own place. And maybe some elder people who have too big a house and don't want to be isolated anymore. And put these people together and have them figure out how they could create a co-housing community and how they would have employment close by, how they'd work out transportation, how they would set it up so it was a community that worked for all the people involved. There might be young families, there might be old people, there might be people who've been homeless, there might be people who are much better off financially. And then have the state help make that a reality. Because one of the things that rich people control right now is capital. Back when I was young, people used to be able to buy a piece of land, put up a simple little structure, say a garage, and live in it for a few years, and then build something after that. They could get a mortgage to build a house. Now that's very hard to do unless you already have a really good credit score and quite a bit of money saved and pretty strong income. And that's not always predictable for people, and it's not easy to get. Many people work 2 and 3 jobs and just get by, enough to pay their rent, their food, and their clothing, a little bit more than that, but not much. So.
Sort of anecdotally to what you said, I remember as a young person seeing people build block foundations on their own and live in the basement until they could construct. And as you said that, it brought back to me that memory that I had as a young person.
Yes, I remember that too. I also remember the first house that we bought, me and my first husband. House in 25 acres. We paid $23,000 for it. It was not a very good house. It didn't have running water. It didn't have electricity. It had gas lights. It had an outhouse. And it was quite serviceable while we lived there. And you can't do that now. And there may be some reasons that you can't that are ecological, but I'm not sure there are, and that really needs to be looked into, because if people could have composting toilets or outhouses, that would bring the ability to create housing, and the cost of that would be much lower and it would be easier for people. Septic systems are very expensive, and gray water systems aren't. People can use biodegradable soaps and everything would be fine.
Why do you think, June, that Vermont can be a leader?
Vermont's been a leader before. And actually this party, when it was the Liberty Union Party, was the first party to advocate for gay marriage and for gay people to have complete rights that everyone else has. And now it's part of the national law. I don't know for how long, but currently it is. And that's because other states said, oh, that works there. Vermont only passed civil unions at first, but that was enough to get other states to say, what can we do? How can we do this? It seems to be okay there. And that moved from there. I think if we are able to have thriving communities, that is real prevention. It prevents substance abuse, it prevents mental illness, and it creates a sense of belonging and connection that's really critical for people. And if you have that, then you're going to have a lot less other problems. And if other states see that happening, they're going to want to jump on the bandwagon. The reason Vermont can lead better than a state like, say, New York, is that we're small. We can make a U-turn pretty fast, and other states have a much bigger turning radius.
Okay. So at this time, I want you to give me a big picture about everything you've said, the things that we've talked about.
Okay.
Starting with the why,
Okay.
the vision, the dream, the implementation.
I don't think we should have to settle for a system where some people are discounted and treated like they don't matter. And now we're not only settling for that, but more and more of us don't matter. More and more people are on the edge of losing their homes, losing everything that they've worked for, because one illness or injury can put you over the edge. One job loss can leave you kind of at sea. And I don't want to see that happen. And I believe that if we work together and create systems where human service system is set up to promote mutual aid, to promote community connection, that we can set up a system that is resilient in the face of climate change and that fosters healthy, meaningful connections for people and provides what we need to face all of the challenges that are coming. I think it would also help us build the capacity to be separate from the federal government if we need to. If they decide we're not funding you for anything anymore, we need to be able to survive. And the way to do that is to help each other. And that's something we can learn from the lowest income people in the state. Homeless people help each other out all the time. Poor people help each other out all the time. We could be doing that and it wouldn't be much cost to us. So I want to build a system that's based on caring and cooperation. And to do that, we have to overturn the patterns of exploitation that have channeled money and power to the people at the top. I don't think that the state can do that on its own, but I think the state can help the people do that. That's my conclusion.
I want to go back just a little bit when you talked about problems, visions and solutions, and that's healthcare. You talked about a universal healthcare. What can Vermont do without the authority or power of the federal government? Is there anything that we can do?
Vermont has a universal health care bill, and the big obstacle to it, two big obstacles. One big obstacle is that the federal government controls many aspects of health care, partly through the Affordable Care Act and partly through Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, TRICARE, and federal employee insurance. So they hold a lot of the cards. And some of those programs aren't going to change, certainly not under this current administration, and maybe not after that. So we have to build around that instead of having one simple system that everything goes under one system, it can't. So we'll have to build around that. The second big obstacle is, I lost it. So big obstacle is the federal government, and the second big obstacle is that we haven't had a governor who will implement it. We've had good policies, good plans. We've had well-informed people write up proposals for how it can be done and how it can be done in a cost-effective way. But Phil Scott will not support it, and it's going to be complicated to plan it around what the federal government is doing. And because it's complicated, who wants to do that and have it be vetoed? You need to have a governor supporting it.
This fall on the ballot will be two propositions, Proposition 3 and Proposition 4. Do you support those propositions?
I support both of them. Proposition 3 is about unions and collective bargaining, and Proposition 4 is about equal rights for everybody. And equal rights for everybody is a basis and foundation of this party. And we would like to see it expand to more economic equity as well as equal rights. But that's too much to put in the Constitution right now. Let's see if we can work towards having that.
All right. I think we've summarized everything I wanted to say. Is there any last words you'd like to say?
I say we don't have to settle for a system that doesn't work for us. We can create a system that does. And if we don't create a system that works for us, other people will continue to create systems that marginalize us, push us out, and don't work for people. I mean, we have 4,000 homeless people in this little state. Actually, I'm sure we have many more than that, because homeless people are notoriously hard to count. They don't stand still and get counted.
Yeah.
So we have all these people who are homeless, and that means the government isn't doing its job of making sure that we're all able to meet our basic needs. We have people who could work and can't find jobs. We have lots of people who are disabled and couldn't even be working and still need to be taken care of. In my opinion, we need to be caring for everyone, and we need to do that collectively. So there are people who can't work, children, old people, disabled people, and we need to provide for them. But we need to do that without making it impossible for the working people to live. Everybody needs what they need, and there's enough to go around. It's just being hoarded by a few people. That's not very inspirational to end with, so I think I want to say we have the capacity to build from the ground up. We can replace a system that's exploitative with a system that's cooperative, with a system where we care for every person and every one of us matters. We can establish greater independence and an ability to survive through whatever's coming if we work together and we build from the grassroots up. If we draw in every person's resources and don't discard people because they have some particular disability. They still have other abilities. And I think we need to use everyone's ability and count everybody in.
I like that they have abilities, maybe at different levels, but they have abilities. Well, that kind of wraps us up for today, and I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to explain to us the peace and justice vision, June Goodband's vision, and telling me why I want to vote for June Goodband for governor. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to point out that we have a website. There are two websites. There's June Goodband. It's June4govvt.org, and I think that's on the screen. And we also have a website for the party, which is still greenmountainpeaceandjusticeparty.org. So it's long, but one word, run it all together.
Great, great. Thank you so much, June.
Okay, thank you.